multiple subreddits have been created that document cases of moderators or subreddits banning people for dumb or inconsistent reasons. And, they might ban you because they think they have a justified reason to ban you for simply having a personal preference.
The most censored year on Reddit yet. Congratulations to the founder.
Well, it's been a year since I uploaded my most popular video on the Zoink channel, Reddit and Censorship. I'm proud of what this video accomplished for me as a YouTuber. It boosted my small channel to 200 subscribers and was able to garner 3.4 thousand views, and is still somewhat growing as time goes by. I personally feel that Reddit and Censorship is my magnum opus, something that defines my channel and what kind of YouTuber I am. The video was received very well, although except our videos after someone promoted my video. Unfortunately, I don't have any screenshots, but most of the comments were scathing criticisms that made me look like I was a complete dumbass or someone who had no idea what they were talking about, which, to be fair, maybe in some regards they were right. But I wasn't trying to expose anything in particular besides how Reddit has gone from being a site known for its free speech and open discussion to its now infamous tirades of censorship, downvoting, and removal from the website for simply being different to the status quo. It seemed to me that the only reason these users bothered to be negative about the video was because it was exposing their favorite platform, and Reddit is certainly free of wrongdoing. It's totally not like within literally months of me publishing that video, a Reddit admin would have to be removed only after protests by its users. We'll talk more about that later, but first, I want to clarify some things that I probably should have done a long time ago. I continually made a point in the Reddit and Censorship video that alt-right groups, or the election of Donald Trump, is to possibly blame for the reason that Reddit became a shithole. Some were using this as a criticism or invalidation of my points in the video. And looking back, it is a fair point. By blaming only alt-right groups in the election of Trump, I'm basically admitting a bias in some way. But I want to clarify that I wasn't entirely blaming Trump or alt-rights or Nazis entirely. The thing about any platform is that there's always a small minority of those who fall in the alt-right category. While that can be found in discussions about political events or subjects, they generally do not affect the conversations they enter. But Reddit is an exception, because it allowed those people to create their own groups. So in 2016, during the infamous election, many would either show the support or hate for one of the candidates. Subreddits like r/the_Donald would continually cause problems single-handedly and get into trouble. They would cause Reddit to have PR problems and make them look terrible to the media or public. Now some of you may know, of course, that Reddit is now more left-leaning, and whether good or bad, it's how it is. I made my point about the election or alt-right groups in the video because, well, it certainly is true that those groups of people generally cause the most problems within social media platforms if given enough power. They make hateful posts or comments and sometimes go on brigades to harass people. It's not something that cannot be denied or justified. Plus, the turn of 2016 truly was a new era of political discourse and internet culture. I mentioned the election because, well, it was very huge and controversial. Hillary Clinton and Trump are controversial figures for different reasons. Trump in his presidency was continually bashed by the media and other left-leaning political figures for his actions and sayings, whether it be nonsensical tweets or attempting to stop social progress with his presidency. I didn't want to be seen as biased, or at least not in a way that would make my whole video pointless, because if I'm acting like one side's the enemy while bashing another, it can make me look hypocritical or biased. So pretty much, I made my points about Trump or alt-right groups causing the downfall of political discourse on Reddit because extremism does tend and usually does cause problems. It's the same for the left as it is the right. Extremism can cause people to be irrational and ignorant. So therefore, when they engage in political discussions, they cause others to either have the same mindset or cause the others to become toxic in a different way. It's really just tribal nature for people to act like this in political events, so it isn't all too surprising, but it was cranked up a notch with the 2016 election. So I apologize if I sounded biased in the video. But again, extremism on either side of the spectrum will cause others to become toxic or ignorant. Alright. Well, we have a lot to cover apart from correcting possible mistakes. A lot has happened within Reddit, and events that showed its downward spiral into censorship and authoritarianism. So how has Reddit changed 1 year later? So about literally only 3 months after I had published Reddit and Censorship, a Reddit admin by the name of Amy Knight was fired and removed as an admin of Reddit after evidence of her being a pedophile and also someone who generally supports the mistreatment and exploitation of children was put to light. But yet, despite this, it took the protests of pretty much all the major subreddit communities. Around 200 of the major subreddits would protest by making the subreddits private, after it was also shown that Reddit was basically censoring anyone who linked articles about the admin being a pedophile or shitty person. Now, who is Amy Knight? Well, she was a UK politician who was in the Green Party in the UK Parliament, but she would be suspended after she had chosen her father as her election agent in her 2017 political campaign. Her father, by the way, was charged with violent sexual assault against a 10-year-old girl. He had tortured the girl and then raped her. She would also be suspended by the Liberal Democrats Party in 2019 after tweets about child sex fantasies appeared on her fiancé's account. A very good human being, no doubt. She is worth censoring the people for and protection from criticism, even if she had her father as our election agent as well as being a pedophile herself. After seeing that Reddit had removed a post on our UK politics about Amy and her pedophilic antics, Reddit went apeshit, but justifiably so, and major subs like our music and other subs with more than 1 million members would go private in protest. On the 24th of March though, Spez, as you know, one of the co-founders of Reddit, and someone who in my Reddit censorship video is not the most amiable or noble human being, responded to the backlash by basically saying, "We have removed her from being an admin, but unfortunately, since we are shit at our jobs, we did not vet her properly before hiring her." And while that statement brought further criticism, at least Spez was being honest. He was owning up to his company's mistake, and ultimately the admin was removed. While the situation could have had a simple timeline of events, it simply didn't. As you may already know, Amy Knight is a trans woman. While luckily most of the situation was not ad hominem against her being transgender, and only for her pedophilia actions and allegations, some people sought to either intentionally or unintentionally slander or harass transgender people. Look, Amy is a woman, or someone you may not feel is a woman, who definitely should be put in some kind of a mental asylum. But attacking other transgender people for the action of one is uncalled for. Anyone could see that the trans communities of Reddit and other platforms were quick to expel her from respect or belonging. They know what a pedophile is, and they care for the well-being of children. So attacking trans people is a really dumb and twisted move. Really, the whole reason that censorship had existed for this situation was primarily the fact that Amy is a transgender woman. Most could see that Reddit wanted to protect their PR by showing that they cared about trans people, but when they saw that everybody was not seeing through it and continually demanding her removal, even with members of the LGBTQ community, they removed her. The whole situation was an ugly mess, but luckily it hasn't stained much since. But it really shows how protective and indifferent social media companies are to the actual public. In my Reddit and censorship video, towards the end where I was talking about whether or not Reddit itself will die or shut down, I had talked a tiny bit about alternative websites to Reddit, and I had mentioned that the most popular at the time that was growing was Ruqqus. I had made myself a Ruqqus account just because I felt like it, although I never really used it. It was only when I went onto the subreddit for WatchRedditDie and Ruqqus that I saw someone promoted my video there. I felt obliged to comment and thank everyone like you normally do, and the reception was quite positive, albeit with a few slurs to represent their free speech. Thanks, I suppose. And that was the last time I had used Ruqqus. As it turned out, in October, only 8 months later, Ruqqus would be closed. And do you want to know why? Ironically, it was the people that would be banned from Reddit and censored a majority of the time. Incels, Nazis, and far-right conservatives. Ruqqus had made a statement on how blind they were to allowing a platform for these people. They said, in quote, "In short, we fell victim to our own naive idealism. We allowed Nazis and incels to destroy the site because we believe that stopping them would be compromising our promise of free speech. In hindsight, we should have cut them out sooner." Pretty ironic. Look, I liked Ruqqus as a concept and a free platform, even if 4chan already exists and has for the longest time. But yeah, ultimately, you still need some regulation. Complete and total free speech is impossible. That's just anarchy, essentially. Although Ruqqus was created in 2019, I consider its true creation to be once 2020 rolled around and censorship became a bigger issue on Reddit. So basically, Ruqqus only lasted a year, which is just sad. but also a lesson. A lesson that, to have free speech, you must still at least have some rules, harboring what is tolerated and what is not. The shutdown of Ruqqus to me seems to have been celebrated, mostly those who lean left politically and stating their absolute happiness that this far-right forum was shut down, while those on the right thought that the owner of the website was an idiot. But ultimately, the shutdown of Ruqqus was inevitable. If the creator was not seeing his vision of the website be fulfilled the way he wanted, again, true free speech that is unlimited is basically impossible, because people have morals and social guidelines on how to act. Basically, every human in the world wants the other to at least not be harassed for something they can't control. But by platforming Ruqqus as a replacement or clone of Reddit and saying that basically anything goes, well, it was just open to disaster. 4chan, while a toxic and terrible website, is able to regulate itself in some sense. Posts are removed occasionally just to ensure legality, and that the website won't be taken down by the feds, or how they say it, glowies. But 4chan also had the benefit of existing in an age of the internet where it was like the Wild West. 4chan stuck around because it made parts of the internet that still exist, but also created its toxic parts. It never tried to destroy itself, and Moot never thought it needed to be shut down. So really, the shutdown of Ruqqus is not a shutdown of free speech, but really just a reality that shows how regulated free speech has to be, because it can't be unregulated. The subreddit that inspired me to make the Reddit and Censorship video in the first place, WatchRedditDie. WatchRedditDie was home to photos, examples, and threads about the censorship of Reddit and the decline of free speech on Reddit. It talked about major events, such as the removal of Amy Knight, or Tencent buying major shares in Reddit. But as of Wednesday, June 15, 2022, the moderators of the subreddit have announced that the subreddit is shutting down and archiving. I was shocked to see this post in my feed, because, well, I didn't think it would shut down this soon. I made this video solely because of this announcement. The fact that the largest community dedicated to exposing the censorship and hypocrisy of Reddit shut themselves down is kind of an end of an era sort of thing. And sure, other subreddits will still exist for the same purpose, but it won't be in the same vein or same influence as WatchRedditDie. While I was not active on the subreddit, primarily because I don't agree with the views of most of the users who post and complain there, I still will subscribe to the subreddit to see news about things that were happening. Although that wasn't really the case, and it was usually just conservatives or dumbasses who said things that would obviously get them banned, and then they would complain about it, acting like it's them being censored. So I wasn't really interested in looking at most of the posts. But regardless, they shut down. Their reasons say that the purpose of the subreddit is now fulfilled, and that Reddit has truly died. They also stated that the relentless censoring and constant restrictions forced by Reddit admins to keep the subreddit not suspended was also a major driving factor. While it's not as inevitable as Ruqqus being shut down, personally, I still expected the subreddit to be shut down or closed either way. Reddit needs to conform to dumb standards and ensure the flow of revenue, because of the need to conform to new agendas and whatnot. So either directly or indirectly shutting down subreddits that criticize them is going to happen. So, what now? What is there to Reddit that hasn't been said? I suppose I can mention how not only are they destroying their website by destroying valuable discussion, but also how they destroyed the literal website by adding functions and code that make everything fucking slow to navigate. The video player is god awful, and Reddit takes up an absurd amount of bandwidth. Like, holy shit, why the fuck is it so much? So lovely. We have a perfect amalgamation of terrible things of most social media websites. The website is buggy, slow, and takes up a huge amount of data. It censors those it doesn't agree with. It is under pressure to conform to investors, and likely Tencent, by censoring posts about China and their horrendous actions, and makes lackluster attempts to appeal themselves as inclusive, when in reality it shows their hypocrisy. Overall, Reddit indeed is not a good website anymore. But was it ever? That is something for people to decide. But it isn't the same as it was in the late 2000s and early 2010s, according to most. Is Reddit even worth using? Why did I make a 30-minute video ranting and showing the censorship of Reddit, and then make a follow-up video a year after doing so? We need to slow down here. I said it in Reddit and Censorship, and I will say it again. So long as you are not engaging in political discourse and avoiding big subreddits where the main toxicity lies, Reddit is tolerable. Of course, that doesn't stop the flaws from still existing, but by avoiding most of the users, who generally never have a social life anyways, you can, at most, tolerate Reddit and enjoy whatever people post. But of course, that is the NPC way of doing things on the internet. A true Chad and free thinker will not try and tolerate a billion-dollar corporation's shitty antics. Now, for that, that's just sort of stupid. Nobody can avoid the problems of Reddit, but they can at least distance themselves as much as possible. Luckily, with how it works, at least the idea that anyone can create a subreddit to cater to a certain interest still mostly exists. I made Reddit and Censorship not as a cry for help or a wimpy way of accepting defeat, but really just as a warning and lesson. In the video, I had talked about Dig, which was the predecessor to Reddit that eventually died, causing Reddit to become its successor. What happened to Dig is scarily similar happening to Reddit as well. The only difference being that Reddit is far, far more massive than Dig ever was. Dig died because it tried to appeal to investors and censored those it needed to censor to keep the cash flowing. Sounds pretty similar, huh? If anything, history repeats itself. The only overlying question is whether or not Reddit will truly die. That is for you to decide, but most could argue that, in essence, Reddit is dead. Within only 1 year, Reddit has proven its worth, which is basically nothing. It has no dignity, and it really does not have any respect for it. While Spez has responded to his criticisms, that shouldn't stop the fact that he continually makes terrible mistake after terrible mistake with leading the company. While the users of Reddit are abhorrent and radioactive, at least you can avoid them like the plague. You cannot do that with the Reddit administration. We are all under their control and play by their rules. The only thing that makes us stop doing so is how much we are willing to tolerate. The path to the future of Reddit is uncertain, but all we can do is speculate whether or not it will get better or worse. I feel the latter, but things can always change and surprise anyone. This will be my last video about Reddit. The only thing I hope for is that Reddit does not become the shittiest platform for any person to use. Thank you for watching.